No one requires my services anymore.
An astute observation. You, sir, have reached the end of the line. The joyride is over.
When I was a kid, I was a fan of the show Lost in Space. And I remember for Christmas, I'd gotten a plastic toy of the robot as well. And when I became old enough, I decided one way or another I was going to build one. And that's exactly what I did. I contacted quite a few people who were involved in construction of the original and recreated them, mostly based off of screenshots from the TV show, where I knew the specific size of different objects, and then measuring the dimensions on the screen, I would get the sizes of the real parts and then recreate them. The original robot was actually a costume. Most people who had viewed the old TV show thought he was an actual robot, but he's actually a fiberglass, steel, and plastic costume. And there was a man inside operating them, moving everything around and doing the arms with his own arms. But this one here is radio controlled. There's actually batteries and servo motors and stuff in there, so using a radio controlled transmitter, I can actually make them walk around and do stuff. Actually building the robot was, from a technical and mechanical and machinist point of view, was relatively easy because I already had the skill set. Building an airplane or helicopter is actually much more difficult. The hardest part was doing the research. Finding all the details necessary to recreate them as accurate as you possibly can. For instance, if we slide them around, in the show, one of the gags is the power pack. You pull the power pack and the robot shuts off, and if I pulled the power pack right now, he would shut off. But it took a lot of research to find that this was actually a circuit board that the original builders had garbage picked from Caltech. Back there in Hollywood and LA, where they were filming the show, Caltech was close by, and they would often raid their dumpsters for fancy looking things to use in the TV show. If you look in Lost in Space and programs like Batman, all these fancy blinky lighty computers and stuff, those were all garbage picked. It took me about 6 months to build them. A lot of time was spent on the internet and looking at the TV shows to measure all the different parts. What parts are off the shelf essentially? The light sockets here, and the buttons, they were common electronic items in the 1960s, but trying to find them in the year 2000 was time consuming. What have I learned from making the robot that carries into my professional career? The biggest thing is working with plastics. Learning to thermally form them, solvent bond them, and manipulate them into the shapes that I need. Quite a few people have noticed that. I've built several production machines using acrylic because for me now acrylic is often easier to machine and maneuver than aluminum and several other metals. So if you can almost, when you walk through the production department of Etymotic, you can often tell the things that I've built because there's a lot of plastic in them.